Well, it's another episode of Uplifting Buzz podcast right here with my co-host, Mr. Marcus Grove.
Hello,
And
everyone.
yes, sir, I'm so glad to have you back on with us. And we're going to get right into our show. I just want to remind everyone that this show is being presented by Buzz Report Media and Uplift Mobile. And we're honored to have each and every one of you all join us today and listening in to our podcast. Just remember to please like, share, and invite your friends and family to listen to Uplifting Buzz podcast. We have some great topics to talk about on today, as always, and just a reminder that this is a non-biased show where non-biased conversations happen. We do not take sides with one or another. We're just bringing you the facts and having a clean dialogue, non-biased dialogue at that, about what's happening and what's important to you. So as we get ready to get into our show, Mr. Grove, man, I'm telling you, like I said, when we leave here each week, man, it's always some development in the subjects that the topics that we talk about. And so we're gonna get right into that today, and because you have been monitoring the District 2 Mobile City Council race, and there was a major development today.
Yes, please enlighten me. I'm actually just hearing about it, so it seems like you're up on the scoop before I am. So,
Well, today, Judge Hambright in Mobile County Court did announce that, or the court did announce that the challenge in that was filed by City Councilman William Carroll against Samantha Ingram's residency, the challenge that he's saying that she's not qualified to even be in that race, and she won that race handily back in August 26th to be exact. That the hearing was set for mid-October, and it has been moved up to this Thursday. So the hearing will be actually taking place this week in 2 days, downtown Mobile, in Judge Hambright's courtroom, and hopefully this may be coming to a head sooner than later, Mr. Grove.
wow. That's a big update. I mean, the 15th is 15 days away, 16 days away now, and the fact that they actually moved it up to this Thursday, which is October the 2nd, it seems like something is going on, right? And so I'll be interested to see, what has transpired.
Yeah, and as I was saying earlier, just knowing that this has been moved up so quickly in a matter of time, after the date was set on last week, it may be put to rest early as Friday. A ruling may come down late Thursday, early Friday, or early next week. But that hearing will happen this Thursday, and all the details will be laid out. I guess they'll present evidence and go from there.
Yeah. So about a little bit about that. The motion for dismissal on the grounds of the fact that Samantha Ingram is challenging the Zogby Act versus Alabama state law, a new election law that was passed in 2012. She's challenging that, and she put a motion for dismissal. Afterwards, Judge Hambright set a date for October the 15th. It is interesting that as soon as that order, Samantha Ingram's party, right, because she is represented by two attorneys, put a motion in to reset the hearing for an earlier date. So Samantha Ingram actually, on the same day, the 25th, put a motion in to reset the hearing for an earlier date. And that motion was granted. So, the showdown will happen earlier than anticipated, and actually this Thursday. So, thank you for informing me. It's been a pretty busy week keeping up with so much that's going on, but for this Thursday and the judge to put it forth prior to the 15th and on the request of Samantha Ingram is pretty interesting.
So you think the Zogby Act is going to overrule the state law in this case?
In some cases, state law does trump city or county law. In a lot of cases, federal law does trump state law. But, that's if the two laws in question are in contention with each other. Now, I'm not a legal expert, but looking at the state law versus the county law, yes, the county law did mandate a 1-year residency in the 80s, 1986, if I remember correctly, at a 1-year residency in the state and 90 days in the district that you're attempting to be elected in. Now, the general election law that was passed in 2012 was not going against the Zogby Act or any other counties in the state of Alabama. In my opinion, the general election law just mandated for a 90-day residency
Mm-hmm.
in district because a lot of these counties were still behind and under archaic laws, not necessarily archaic as the 1980s, but we're talking about even prior to then, 1880s, 1940s, 1950s. So, a lot of counties just didn't have something like the Zogby Act. If you understand Mobile creating the Zogby Act because of need in the 1980s, imagine what smaller counties have not done. So the general election law in effect was to create at least a standard. I don't think that it will overrule the Zogby Act. I mean, just think about a sitting county judge overruling a legislature that has been put in and decided on the merits and voted in the 1980s just for state law. You're talking about the ability of state law to take over city law, and if it was state law, Alabama wouldn't allow the federal to come and take over for anything. They would have to literally go to the Supreme Court of the United States just to make that in effect. So if that does happen, let's just say Hambright does, decide on the merits that, hey, the general election law overrules the Zogby Act, it will be grounds for William Carroll to appeal. And then you're talking about appealing to all the way up to the Supreme Court. So it's possible that this can go on for a long time.
Do you think that she will put an end to this and rule with prejudice in this matter where I mean, to
In this
limit
case,
the ongoing?
yeah. So in this case, it would be unprecedented. I don't think that Judge Hambright will rule to be with prejudice, because in this case she is just. I mean, nothing against her, but her position is county affiliated. It is dealing with Mobile County. It doesn't necessarily. I mean, her position has the expertise of Mobile County law, but doesn't really deal a lot with state law specifically. And you're talking about specific state law against the county law. I don't think that she has the power to really. I mean, yeah, obviously, judges have an enormous amount of power, but for her to rule with and decide this case and say, hey, you're forbidden from filing it again, will be just uncanny and not something that a county judge should do. So I don't think that she would rule in that case. Now, someone like Reginald Hill, who she ruled that case, or it wasn't actually her, it was another judge that ruled like without prejudice, right? He had the opportunity to file again. And so, in this case, you can't really rule with prejudice.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna bring another point to this case that we may not have talked about, or nobody may not have talked about. Let's take the state law that says that a citizen must be a resident for 1 year. And on hand two, let's say in Mobile, it says 90 days. Okay. So let's say Kara's in the middle and looking at, taking his head, looking left and right at both of these laws and say, well, she wasn't a resident for a year because she voted in the state of Georgia, but she may have been for 90 days just to run for a seat, which disqualifies her because the state law triumphs local law. So therefore, she wasn't a resident for a whole full year of the state of Alabama.
Definitely.
So do you think that's where all of this is coming down to from Kara's side? Even though he may be losing on one side, he's actually fighting with the state law that says she has to be a resident of the state of Alabama for 1 year.
Well, currently the state law says that she has to be a resident in the state of Alabama for 90 days. The Zogby Act, in fact, says that she has to be for 1 year and 90 days in her district. Now, if you're talking about the Zogby Act being a state law and the general election law being a county law, if they were reversed, then and the state law made it mandatory that she be a resident for 12 months, and then the city law or the county law made it to where she was a resident for 90 days, then yes, in that fact, William Carroll would lose that fight because that state law would trump that county law based on the fact that it was reasons and mitigating reasons why the state legislature would decide that you have to be a resident of the state of Alabama for 12 months. Now, it's not the case. The Zogby Act, in fact, is a county law that states that, hey, you have to be a resident for 12 months. So it's reasons for that. So, in this case, I just don't see, again, I just don't see that I just don't see the judge going against a county law that's been there for so long for reasons, unless something is changed about it in legislature, in Congress of the state. They will have to change it. Now of the state, I'm sorry, but of the county. The county commissioners will have to come together and decide, okay, well, hey, the Zogby Act doesn't go or goes against the general election law. But for individuals who's loyal to Mobile, who understands Mobile for what it is, including sitting judges, I just don't see them going against the Zogby Act over the general election law, because the general election law just sets a standard. It doesn't prohibit or denounce any other county's stance on the matter. It just sets a standard, and it sets a standard exclusively for counties that just didn't have a law in place.
Right. Okay. All right. So, like I said, man, this is something. This is something. It's confusing a little bit, in some way, and that's why they're going to the courthouse to try to get it all sorted out. At the end of the day, that we can say thus far is that there is a challenge to the election results that happened on August the 26th, that Samantha Ingram was declared the winner, and no runoff. And William Carey is trying to hold on to his seat, and despite and against the will of the people, because I mean, actually, in all reality, the people did speak and said, we no longer want Carey to be our representative, and he's still trying to force himself into that position because he don't want to give it up. And I listen. I don't doubt or I don't say to anyone not to fight for what you believe. Everybody has that right, and that's what he's doing. And at the end of the day, Samantha is scheduled to be sworn in on November 3rd to her new post as new city councilwoman for District Number 2. And as always, I say in this matter, Mr. Grove, it's the people of District 2 that's hurting, and that will hurt the most out of this, even if there's a new election calls, because there's a new qualifying period, new candidates have to come forth, new tax dollars have to be spent for another election, then possible another runoff, so forth. So this can possibly go all the way into the new year. And then it all depends on the legal challenges, because Samantha did win, and if she feels, her terms feel that she also has a legal fight and a possibility to be understood to win. Like you said, they could take it to the appellate court, and the state Supreme Court, maybe all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. It all depends how far they want to go with this, and how far, they willing to stay in the fight for this and rack up dollars. I mean, I know the attorneys don't mind because they're getting paid at the end of the day. But it's the candidates how far they want to keep reaching into their pockets, or then do they turn to their supporters and say, "Well, would y'all donate to this cause to help us be victorious?" So there's a lot of things that play here. Thursday is the beginning of the of the road for this case. As it go to the judge, and like I said, it can come to a head real quickly, and then it can open up a new head. It can boil over to something new. We don't know, but we shall know come Thursday or a little after Thursday what's the outlook is, for District 2 here in the city of Mobile. And that being said, Mr. Grove, Buzz Report did an article this morning talking about the ramifications of this case and how it may impact Tommy Tuberville running for governor. Because this is going to be, and not only Mobile District 2 is watching this in City Mobile, but there's a Republicans and there is people in the Tuberville camp and those that may want to challenge him also watching this case to use it against Tuberville if it comes down that say Samantha Ingram was not eligible to run for office, because it is rumored that he's a resident of the state of Florida, and Tuberville have not come out and provided any evidence that he's an actual resident here in the state of Alabama.
Yeah.
And then you also have another candidate that's running for U.S. Senate. That's the chairman of the Alabama Democratic Party, Mr. Wall, have voted in Tennessee twice in the past election. This case does serve as a ramification to a lot of other candidates that's on the ballot, intend to get on the ballot that's not residents here in the state of Alabama. What's your thought?
Well, one of the differences in Samantha Ingram residents in state of Alabama versus Tommy Tuberville's residents that he has in Alabama is that so if you maintain a household, one of the things that you can apply for is tax abatements on your home for various reasons. If you have, if you're of age, elderly, if you have a disabled person living with you, you can get excluded from paying property taxes. And one of the laws or one of the issues with that is that you only can get that in one domicile. You only can get that in one household. So one of those situations is that Tuberville gets that tax deferment in the state of Alabama. Okay, he doesn't get it in Florida. He hasn't requested that tax abatement in Florida, and so that's one of the issues with that's different from Samantha Ingram. She's never applied for a tax abatement in any of the houses that she has in Georgia or in Mobile. Now, when it comes down to Tommy Tuberville, he has that at his home in Alabama, and that is not, in my opinion, defining moment. However, that is something that uh, judges or people look at to view the issue of taxation, being as exempt from paying property taxes here versus there. With Florida having his homes in Florida being more expensive, he would benefit more from his Florida homes being exempt from taxes versus his Alabama homes. So why wouldn't he apply for tax exemption in Florida? Well, he can argue that because I really live in Alabama. Well, that is the contention there.
Okay. All right. And so, but I think the law should apply to everyone that want to seek office, and not issues special privileges to certain individuals, and let them slide, and then the law don't apply to everyone. I do see I do see some challenges coming in 2026, when just as soon as all of this holidays is over and all of the candidates start qualifying in January. um you know uh just like here in District 2 in Mobile, in regards to these candidates living in other states but running for office here in Alabama. And I think that'll be talked about also in the campaign trail about some candidates. Why would you elect someone that's not from your state or your district, um, that knows you, knows the issues that's actually happening and going on in your district and the state. I do understand that Tuberville represent the state of Alabama in the United States Senate, and the federal laws, election laws, are a little bit different in the federal office for the federal offices, because he actually can run for any office in Alabama from Florida on the federal level, but not on the state level. The state law is different, and that's where the state law will come in play, because he's giving up his federal office, he's not running for federal office anymore. He'll be running for state office, and the state law would come into effect where it says that must be a resident for X amount of days and so forth. Um, so this case here in Mobile, it remains to see, and it is the latest case,
Mhm.
and it remains to be seen, how we have an impact on other races and campaigns here in the near future.
Yes. Yes. Chief Paul Prime would have been going through the same issue, I believe, if he would have been elected to be mayor of Mobile. His situation was a little bit unique, but for a long time, he was not a resident of Mobile, which is even, I don't think the question has been raised, why, Sandy Stimson, would you uh, approve of someone to be chief of police when they don't even stay in the city of Mobile? You're the mayor of Mobile, not the county.
Right. Think I I may be wrong. But I think you can hire an individual to be chief, regardless of where they live. They don't have to necessarily live in well, I'm hoping that they'll move to the city after they're hired. But I mean, if they're locally, for instance, say, well, we got someone coming in from Daphne to be chief of Mobile. It's just right around, right over the water. That's fine. But I think when you make the hire for these offices, I think it's more focused on the expertise that they're bringing to the office. Um, you know, to help fight crime, lead a large police force or any police force. So I think it's more focused on the expertise. But like I said, um, and they get all these perks like vehicles. I don't want city vehicles being driven X amount of miles on the expense of the city and the citizen tax dollars. So that's why I get back to saying I'm hoping that once they're hired or become the police chief, that they make Mobile their home, and be a local resident amongst the citizens that you're serving. And you have a point. You do have a point. But I just want to insert that basically it's more contingent on their expertise than where
Yeah.
they live until actually they're actually hired to the position.
Yeah, and you can be a police chief in Chicago and get hired to come down to the city of Mobile, and I do understand that. But at what point do you attempt to be a part of that city? I think that Chief Ron, that would just been an issue if he got elected to be mayor. Some of the similar issue that Samantha Ingram is going through right now.
Right. So are you saying that Paul Prime is not a resident of Mobile?
Well, he is now. He attempted to, he did what he had to do prior to that time frame. But last year and before, he was he was a citizen of Saraland. So, being a chief of Mobile, a police chief in Mobile would have been fine as a citizen of Saraland. But to be mayor of Mobile meant that you actually had to live in Mobile, which he did gain residency in Mobile prior to, but a lot of people would have been like, it would have went back to the Zogby Act.
Mm-hmm.
At what time did you gain residence? We would need to know, because in this case, the 12 months would have been out. It would just been focused on the 90 days. Did he in fact gain residency 90 days prior to getting put on the ballot for election? And was it a homestead, or was it just an apartment? you know so
So you
uh,
so you so let me make sure I'm hearing you right, Mr. Grove. So you're saying that Mr. Prime only did what he had to do to run for mayor on a temporary basis, and you thinking that he maybe moved back to Saraland
oh yeah,
after?
he still has his house in Saraland. That's no doubt about it. That's it's years and money built up in that house.
Right.
He could potentially sell that in the future. He could potentially give it to his children. So yes, he did only do what he had to do just to gain residency in the city of Mobile 90 days prior. Now he did do that, but had he got elected, somebody could have had a chance to sue for his residency requirement. Did you do it just because? Did you do it fraudulently? Which I would hate to go down that road, because he was in fact also the one who blew the whistle on Sandy Stimpson and the chief of staff and the city council approving a fraudulent grant to a mom and pop company in Florida who said that they were woman owned, when in fact the woman of the company didn't have the expertise to do what they suggested that they could do. It was only created for fraudulent means. So for him to actually move to the city of Mobile, gain residency just to go for mayor, I mean, yeah, he had a lot of backing, but at the end of the day, if someone would have, sent that up to the judicial system, they would have wondered if this was done for the sole purpose of misrepresentation, which, in my opinion, it would have raised a lot of eyebrows, and it did actually, at the very beginning, but when he gained traction over, uh, his election, people wasn't really saying much, but yeah, he still has his home in Sarah.
Wow. Okay, and that's very interesting, because Mobile, even if you got in the runoff, not just won, but if you would got in the runoff and knowing that could have hampered a lot of things in the runoff election, because that could have been pointed out that he wasn't a resident for a year. Well, I mean he's a resident. I mean of Alabama for a year, but not Mobile.
In Mobile.
Right, and so And it took him a minute to announce his candidacy, and during that time, I'm pretty sure he was getting, making preparations because he knew. I'm pretty sure he sought some type of legal advice, and they were getting all that stuff in place for some moment that may happen, like what you have talked about and discussed.
Yeah, so the need to move was 90 days in the district. He needs to move in the district. The laws don't explicitly say, hey, you have to sell your other home. You have to, but it does have to be his primary homestead. And Saraland is just not. I mean, Saraland is his primary homestead. Mobile is not. So if he would have went to the runoffs and, let's just say he went up against Barbara Drummond and won, she could have outright sued on the basis of that fact that he misrepresented his living status, and she would have won in court, in open court. So, you have a lot of shifting and moving going on these days, and this is just a part of it. This is just a part of it.
Wow, it's amazing. What people do just because they want a seat at the table. And just to say that, this is nothing new that just began to happen. It happen all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't find out a lot of this stuff until people actually sworn into office.
Mm-hmm.
And then now you have to debate what's the next step, and how do you handle the matter? Because like I said, you're putting this the city in jeopardy, and the daily affairs of the city in jeopardy, but also the citizens of that city in jeopardy. So, people have to do a lot more homework on these candidates, and knowing that just jump up. I mean, I say it this way: you can support whom you want to support, and you may be knowing, like, hey, you probably knowing John for 30 years, but you also know John didn't live in the city of Mobile when he ran for mayor,
Mm-hmm.
but you still supported him. But
Mm-hmm.
we need to start being more fair and respecting the law. And if a person not going to respect the law as they are running for office, how do they respect the law when they get into office? So that's what I'm trying to say. That's important.
Yeah.
And me and you talked about this a number of times. Matter of fact, we talked about it yesterday. A lot of people are uneducated to the fact of knowing this stuff. And I'm thankful that we know now that we have an avenue where people can actually come and get information to know a lot of things that's not talked about. Because if a person never hear it and to know it, they'll never know. They're just going off assumptions and opinions of others and believing to know what they already know and not the facts that they should know to make informed decisions. As I told you yesterday, if people, had more knowledgeable information, a lot of things would go a whole lot different than we see it going, how we see it happening today.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think a lot of times, though, too, that it's people's interpretation. Samantha Ingram is using her lawyers to interpret the law. Zogby Act against the general election law. You have people like Paul Prine who interpret the law as he seen fit, and that's what it's boiling down to. It's people's interpretation of the law, and that's just reality. By all means, you know that's what's going on in the federal, in the state, and in the county, city uh, areas. People are interpreting the law as they see fit.
Right, right. But again, as I say, we should abide by the laws as it's written. If anything arises, that we do have a legal system that we can always go and challenge. But if you know that you are not qualified, don't jump in, because you can quickly be put out. what done in the dark always comes to the light. I have heard that. I have heard that many times in my life and found it to be true. You know, so you can run and you can't hide. Uh, it'll catch up with you. I mean, in the long run, it will. What you think people don't know now, they'll know in the future. At some point. And then sometimes, Mr. Grove, people be just sitting around waiting to expose certain information. They'll just see how far you get and see how far you go. And, and then they'll say, well, now is the time that we need to bring out to the forefront that, he's not really a resident of Mobile. Or she really ain't a resident of District 2. Yeah. Or he may not be, I know for a fact he ain't no resident of Alabama, because I see him going into the house in Florida every time he come home from Washington. So, I mean, you just have people that play dirty politics like that because they have some type of animosity against you or some type of hate against you. It happens. So we have to be prepared for whatever may come. And if you knowing it's out there, it's a possibility that it may come up.
Yeah. Definitely. Like people are saying, forget the whole District 2 issue. Samantha Ingram just bought the house in District 2 just because she wanted to go against somebody who she thought would win. When in fact, she was a resident in the early 2000s in District 1, or is it District 1? No, not District 1. C.J. Small's district, 3. So, would she go against him? No, because C.J. Small has a following. He's done his job. He's over the city council as the president. A lot of people like him. He has a reputable business. Now, why didn't she, continue at her residence in District 3? Well, she wanted to go, come back to Mobile, have her way, and buying a house in that district was not a problem. Buying a house in District 2 is your prerogative. But, should she be mandated to have lived in the state for 12 months? And that's what her attorneys and herself are saying, that forget about the 12 months thing. You don't even have to go and be a resident in the state of Alabama for 12 months because the general election law came out in 2012, which somehow overrides the Zogby Act. And so I just think that in that line of thinking, it's very superficial. You can't just assume general election law overrides that. Otherwise, they would explicitly said in the general election law, it would have explicitly said, and any representative that was up there that voted for the general election law in 2012 in any county would have said, hey, so this is going to go against our county law, our city law, the area that I'm in, because we have a law too, that kind of goes against this. Would this refute that? And I just don't see that being the case. This is just a standard. That's why they made it 90 days. Otherwise, it would have been a lot longer time frame that you had to be in the state of Alabama or in your district. It just didn't say that.
Right.
The words say 90 days in your district, in the state of Alabama, and the Zogby Act says 12 months.
Right. So, yeah. And so we're going to see Thursday, like I said, Thursday begins, the path to the future of District 2 and this court case. And it remains to be seen what's going to happen. Like I said, something may be in the works here that we don't know anything about. But the case has been moved up pretty swiftly. And it's going to happen this Thursday versus October 15th, 2 weeks away, 2.5 weeks away, at that. So, hey, I'm ready to find it out. And I know you've been monitoring this, for quite some time, and we shall see. the next thing that's happening today, man, is on a federal level, and we have a few hours left until a possible government shutdown in Washington because our senators and congressmen can't get their act together to pass a continued resolution or a budget for a whole year. They could, continue to do these 3 months and 6 months stopgap funding bills that, kicks the bucket down the road, to get by, to make payments here and keep employees employed and government offices open. But man, we need something stable and long term. And Democrats are saying they're not going to support, the Republican continuing resolution this time around. If the government shuts down, they're saying it's on them because they're in charge. They control all three branches of government from the White House down to Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives. Back this summer, in spring, they passed this big mega bill that actually cut everything across the board, and now they want to pass another continuing resolution that provide more cuts. And I'm not saying the Democrats are wrong. As I said earlier, people should fight for what they believe. Democrats are fighting for that they keep the subsidies in place for the Obamacare, so people have health care and affordable health care. If the bill passes, the resolution passed in its current form, that the Republicans are just trying to push through, it will cut it. It'll be over. So we got a couple more hours to find out, would it be a last minute deal? But my question to you, Mr. Grove, who would take responsibility for this? The Republicans or the Democrats? Of allowing the government to shut down?
Well, in this case, it's both. It's both. When you come down to bipartisanism and the need for bipartisanism, George Washington, the first president of the United States, said that a two-party system cannot stand. Well, it's been standing for 48 years. But at the same time, it's been getting shut down at the end of the fiscal year every single year. I mean, even when I was, back in the military, in the Marines, it was individuals who, all across the board, we were getting told from our commanders, hey, you're not going to get paid, but that doesn't mean you can't come, that you're not supposed to come to work. You still got to, show up for duty. You still have to be at your appointed place of duty when you're supposed to be there. So just because you're getting paid doesn't mean anything. And so for our military, it doesn't matter if you're getting paid or not. You have to show up for work. Now, there's budget contingencies for, veterans who are on, long-term health care and different type of, different type of monies going out to a veteran. So when it comes down to VA pay or veteran pay, there's contingency plans to make sure that they're still funded. But at the same time, who's at fault for this, you ask? And in my opinion, it's both sides of the aisle. One thing that George Washington was good at was he was good at bipartisanism, and that was agreeing to disagree, but getting the job done nevertheless. And it just seems that both sides of the aisle don't have it in them. They don't have what it takes. But at the same time, you have a leader, Donald Trump, who likes this type of thing, right? Because this is how he gets his way. This is how he can push his arm around and say, oh, it was me who got the job done, or I can send Vice President Vance in my stead, and he will get the job done. And so this is their time to shine, and this is what they like to do. They like for contention to be like this, so they can have an opportunity to shine. And so the American people will say, "Oh, well, Donald Trump, Vice President Vance got it done in the final hour." But it's a total conflagration. This is an intentional, really. It's intentional, really, because if Donald Trump was trying to be about the bipartisanism thing, he would have, but he's not up for that. He's only for one voice, one uh, heartbeat, one type of, and this is reason why George Washington came over with the other parties from England to and from France as well to strike up something new, because you had people like Louis XIV, King George III, who were about absolutism. They had an absolute rule, and this is exactly what Donald Trump wants. He wants absolute rule to do what he wants to do when he wants to do it,
Mhm.
and step in, and then when everything starts going right, oh, it's me. I got it done.
Right. And this is another situation where, one man is trying to claim victory and the people of this country loses. We have one side pointing the finger at this certain group of people, and then we have another side trying to claim victory for just one man and not for the people. And that's where it is right now. And I hate to see it that way, but that's where it is. And I just hope that by midnight that they will come together and in a bipartisan way and say, well, I give up this to get this, and so forth. And
Yeah.
then at the end of the day, the people win, and not just one person.
It's another issue that is being pushed to the Supreme Court as well, and that's birthright citizenship. Trump
Mm-hmm.
is pushing the Supreme Court to decide on that, if birthright citizenship is lawful. Let's just say that the Supreme Court decides against birthright citizenship. He can, in fact, start to deport citizens of the United States. All across the board, they can start to deploy Black and brown citizens, especially, New York, who he's so fervently against. He loved New York for years, for decades, but New York has turned a blind eye against his corruption. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, evicting, basically evicting Latinos from New York is really what he wants to do. He would love to do that.
Right. And then especially when they're on the verge of electing this young 30-some-year-old guy to be the new mayor there in New York, which he's not a fan of, and he really don't want to see become mayor. But people, we're sitting on the sidelines. We're not paying attention to all of this stuff, and a lot of this stuff is very important. It's very important, and it matters because it affects our lives. And hey, it is what it is. It's happening, but we got to have a voice out there to educate the people. And this is something that we're going to be watching as well and keep on talking about right here on the Uplifting Buzz podcast. Mr. Grove, man, it has been another great episode of Uplifting Buzz podcast on this wonderful and awesome Tuesday. And we're getting ready to get out of here, but we'll be back on Thursday. And then we'll talk more about how this election challenge to residency have impact on other races, and talk about some of the other candidates that's running for office in 2026, and how it may impact them, among some other things that we're maybe talking about on Thursday. But until then, we want to thank everyone for listening. Please, once again, do us a favor, like, subscribe, and share Uplifting Buzz podcast with your followers, family, and friends. And we're expecting you to join us again on this Thursday coming up. God bless you.